everybody. It's your girl Miracle Sims, and you're listening to God, Sex, and Love. Your daily dose of inspiration and juice. It is September the 17th, 2021, and today the topic is faith practical? First I want to say thank you to everyone that wished my husband and I a happy anniversary. I truly appreciate you all taking out the time to acknowledge our special day. I definitely saw all of the commentary and even had a few people do a couple of personal posts about us and whatnot. One included my homegirl Summer with Sky Designs. She pretty much showed or told the story of how she created the art pieces that were inspired by our wedding. And she tagged me in that on my Facebook page, and I was like, yeah, man, that is how that happened. Because it was crazy because I didn't know her at the time when we got married, and then when we did meet and I found out that she was an artist, I think all I did was mention, I was like, man, I wanted to have an artist at our wedding, to paint while the wedding was going on. That was something that I wanted to have, but I didn't know anybody at the time and couldn't really find anybody or something like that. And so I guess that must have inspired her, because next thing I know, I think I would talk to her a little bit. I don't know how long it took between when I said that to her, but basically she told me that she was working on something or whatever, and then lo and behold, she came to me with like 3 pieces inspired by our wedding. It was like a solo painting of me, a solo painting of my husband, and it was a painting of us together during our kiss, the moment of the kiss and whatnot. And beautiful paintings that are in our living room, has been in our living room ever since, and everything like that. And so it's a God be the glory for so many friends, family, and people that are supporting us, and we definitely appreciate it. Like I said, it was our 5th year of marriage yesterday, and so real quick, let me tell you guys what we did. Well, long story short, spent most of the day chilling, you know what I'm saying? I told you guys he took this whole week off, so so we've been enjoying him being home with us and whatnot. I know it was funny because when MJ woke up yesterday morning, and he didn't see his father or whatever, he was like, "Papa's at work?" I was like, "No, Papa's still with us. He's just sleeping in the other room, and everything like that." So, we mostly chilled, but later on, for dinner, hubby ended up taking me to the restaurant that we went to for our first date, which was this Mexican restaurant. So there we were with, us and our son, and we had a nice little family dinner at the Mexican restaurant. So it was nice. It was nice that he thought of that, to take us to the place that we first had our first date. And we didn't think about it till afterwards, where we were like, man, we should have told the people that it was our anniversary, but we just, I don't know, it was just like a regular dinner. But at the same time, I was like, well, I want to say it might have been like the first time that we've been out as a family since the pandemic. Just us. I think it has been the first time. Now, obviously, it's not the first time we've eaten out or nothing, because we get stuff delivered. But I'm saying, like, us being out somewhere. So it was nice. And we enjoyed the time and the food and all that stuff. I must have been tired. I don't think I took a midday nap or anything, so I think by the time I got back, I was just super tired. And then the next thing I know, hey, I'm waking up for the juice. So that's what happened yesterday. And again, to God be the glory for these 5 years, man. Honestly, I just look at my life and I'm just like, wow, look what God did. He took those, I would just say at this point, they were visions. They were visions of who I am now. And, he took those visions and now they are my reality. And I guess that makes me excited. That makes me excited for, the further visions that I'm having. And it makes me excited for, future and everything like that. I know it was interesting. My husband was like, "Oh, where do you see yourself in 5 years?" Well, with the current state of the world, I'm not too sure. But if nothing goes, I definitely see myself with them. You know what I mean? With my two Darios, you know. So, yeah. But anywho, so let me go on and get into this here. Is faith practical? So, this idea was inspired by partly by this conversation that I had with the ladies that are going to be featured tonight on God, Sex, and Love, the ladies of Speaking Grace TV, Miss Adana and Miss Hannah. I'm sorry, I never say their name. I just be saying Speaking Grace TV. But anyway, now you guys won't see the conversation because this is a conversation that we filmed the other day. So you guys will probably see it maybe next week or whenever they post it on their platform. But it was kind of inspired by that conversation because there was one point where, I believe it was Adana that asked me a question, and then I answered the question, and then she was like, well, basically, how can, did I have a more practical way to answer the question? And I don't know, I guess I just thought about that this morning during my prayer meditation when I was doing with the Soul Space app. That crossed my mind this morning. Well, the topic itself came into my mind, and I was like, that's a good question. For whatever reason, even believers, right? Even believers, sometimes it seems as if we don't believe that faith is a practical option when it comes to life, right? I mean, that's what it seems. Yes, I mean, that's what I thought about this morning. That's what I ended up looking up information centered around, and hopefully we can come to some type of conclusions during this juice. So, one of the first things I did was to look up the word practical. So, check this definition out. It says, of or concerned with the actual doing or use of something, rather than with theory and ideas. The second definition says, likely to succeed or be effective in real circumstances, feasible. So, is faith practical? Now, I mean, the interesting thing is, I think we know without us, those that read the Bible, I think that faith is one of the requirements, right? Faith is something that is constantly stated throughout the Bible. It's told that we need to do this thing, we need to have it, and everything like that. So is faith practical? Well, my first question, right, what came across my mind, and I guess I'm asking you today, if it was not practical, then why would God, through Jesus, and throughout the Word, constantly tell us to do this thing if it was not practical? I don't know. Y'all can, let that marinate on your heart, souls, and minds today. The answer to that question. But for me, all I can do is speak on my life, my own testimonies, and the things that I've witnessed and encountered, right? And so I've shared with you guys multiple times about, my testimony. I've shared, what God has done for me obviously in my life, in my relationship, in my career. And to be honest, those were the main things that were my struggles, right? Those were the main things that I had in my mind. I told you all the inspiration of GSL. The only thing that's different between what I was really, really dwelling on when that idea came into my mind is instead of love being in the third spot, it was career. It was God, sex, and career. Now, I had to go back, and that's I always have to go back and let it be known that sex and love to me went in the same category. However, but anywho, but yeah, it was God's excellent career for me. Those are things that I constantly thought about and fretted over and prayed about and was like, Lord, what you want me to do with all of this? And yeah, so honestly, I can only come from my perspective, but I hope by again sharing my perspective, it will help you, I guess think about yours and to, of course, inspire you and encourage you in whatever place you're in. So, with that being said, is faith practical? Well, I would say it is. I would say that the more I practice faith, right, the more that I live by faith, the more that God has provided for me. And, and it just so happens that since 2019, I've documented it to a certain extent. I've shared with you guys before that in 2019, I was going live throughout the year. And, anytime something happened, especially with my business, whatever, I was going live and I was sharing that testimony, talking about it, giving updates about my business endeavors and stuff like that and the moves that we were making. And when God brought us out, I shared that. When I was down, I shared that. And that was kind of like, I would say, even though I feel like there's a lot of examples throughout my life of me living by faith and exercising faith, I would say maybe when it comes to, I was going to say when it comes to my career, but I don't know. I think this is just the first time that 2019 again was just that time that I was consistently documenting my process in a way where other people could see it, because before then I would document my process maybe through writing or just keeping my diary or something like that every now and then. So yeah, so in video form, I have documentation of my testimony of God, inspiring me to, go for things. Then, I'm receiving things. Then I'm not understanding things. Then I'm blessed with things. Then, and it just was this rotation of documentation. And so, and that has led me to, y'all know what happened in 2020, where I feel like I'm all the way living by faith. Like, yeah, I've been blessed, especially this year. I feel like I've been blessed with, opportunities and things that have, at least when I think financially or whatever. Because here's the thing, y'all. Here's the thing. And I hate to keep bringing things back to financial, but when we're thinking about practical, right? When we're thinking about, something tangible or something that you guys can hopefully understand, when we think of our needs, right? We're thinking about things that we probably need to purchase, things we need to pay for, things we need to keep up or something like that. And so yes, I refer to what God is doing for me financially, because these are things that for me is a good example of faith taking care of these practical needs and issues. Because again, I feel like I am totally living by faith right now, because what are we told, right? What are we told as humans? You're told you go to school, you get an education, you go to college, you get a career, you get a job, or whatever the case is, and this job's gonna help you pay for your home and your food and your family and all these different things. And this is what we're told, right? And so this is what we live, and this is what we do. But then 2020 came, and then jobs went away. And the crazy thing for me is I was already shifting in this I don't even know how to say it, like in this direction. I guess I was already shifting into this direction prior to 2020. So when 2020 hit, it wasn't like the whole staying home and all of that. It was stuff that I was already doing. But that part. But then, like, when it came to career-wise, things started to shift for me, in 2018 when I had my son. And again, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, Lord, I know that I'm supposed to work, right? As a mom, I'm supposed to have some type of job or something that's going to assist with, me taking care for this child that we now have, And at the time, I was blessed to work at a place that, allowed me to incorporate my son to a certain extent. When he was first born and whatnot, they allowed me to work from home a little bit and things like that. And so that was a blessing. However, as somebody being practical, right? As somebody being, I guess using my common sense or whatever, it was just like one of those things where it's like, okay, at some point, I need to make some different decisions, or I need to figure something out, because, the job that I was doing prior to becoming a mom was something that required me to, be at a location, and I most likely wouldn't be able to have my son and all these different things. And so, at the time it was on my mind heavy to get my own back kicked off, get my business back on, get my business to the place where I could do it more frequently so it could be my job, right? So it could be my source of income, whatnot, right? That's because that's what we're told, right? We need jobs, we need these things for income and all these. That's what we're told. So that's what, I felt like God was leading me to do again at the beginning of 2019. And so when doors opened for me to be able to start getting that idea off the ground, getting those visions or whatever it was that God was leading me to do, when the doors opened, I walked in, right? I'm like, okay, cool. I see doors is opening. I'm going to go forth and do what it is I feel like God is leading me to do. Now, doors open, there were blessings that happened, but then there were also ups and downs. There was like things that, it just didn't go the way that I had planned for it to go. And I didn't understand it at the time. And it was a little bit confusing and it was a little bit weird. I'm like, Lord, you told me to get a venue. I got a venue now, finally getting things kicked off, and then this happens or that happens. And like, what am I doing here? And can we even pay this next month? And every month, it just miraculously, every month we was able to pay. And I'm just saying that, and I was barely working at the time. I was barely working at the other job. So for me, I saw the miracle, right? I saw what God did with my 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. I saw what God did with the little that I had. And it kept me in everything afloat. And I just had, like I said, I just happened to have documented it through me sharing constantly, through video and whatnot. But I guess I say all that to say, like, with this question of, is faith practical? Well, again, I would say yes. And I would say that, if the word is telling us constantly to have faith, right? To trust God and all these things. So why would he ask us to do these things if they're not practical? And as a believer, we need to be, the ones exercising this all the time. At the end of the day, I guess if we're questioning if it's practical, right? Or if we're feeling as if, I know the word says this, but this don't feel like it's, or whatever. I don't know what people are feeling. And I get it. Like I said, I have my moments of doubt too. I'm like, Lord, you asked me to get a venue. I went to go get a venue. I got the venue. Now we can't pay for the venue. We can't even open the venue. We can't even what do you want? What are we doing here? And all those different things. But the more I leaned and depended on him, the more that doors opened, the more that I saw family and friends that were there for me and with me. I just saw him move, y'all. I saw him move. And I am still seeing him move because I still feel like I'm living by faith. I mean, the only consistent gig that I currently have at the moment is virtual acting class that I do on Tuesdays that I share with you guys about That's the only consistent thing. Now, everything else that happens beyond that, like if I sell some books, or if my business actually gets booked or something like that, all of that stuff is still, like extra, and just by the grace of God, honestly. So how am I still able to pay my part of the bills? You know what I'm saying? How am I still able to every month? You know what I'm saying? Like, how somehow I still have what I need to do the things that I need to do, and even to do some things I want to do. And again, I don't think I'm that special, right? I think that you could do the same thing, So how? And if we don't think, right, that faith is practical, maybe we should start more so thinking of what are ways that faith can be practical. Then, because maybe you're doing faith wrong. if you're living, if you read the Word of God and you're not inspired to live by faith, and you don't think it's practical, then you're probably doing it wrong, in my humble opinion. But let's see what the Bible says. Let's see what the Bible says. So Hebrews 11:6 says, "And without faith it is impossible to please him. For whoever would draw near to God must believe that he exists, and that he rewards those who seek him." Well, y'all, what is this verse saying here? Aside from saying that it's impossible to please God without faith and everything like that, if you want something practical to do, I guess I'll just point out some practicalities of faith, right? What does it say in this verse? It says we need to believe. So that's one thing, belief. I don't know if you think that is practical or not, but I think you can choose to believe or not. It's up to you, right? So in my humble opinion, choosing to believe is something practical that you can do when it comes to faith. Now, y'all can let that marinate on your heart, souls, and mind, but I do believe that choosing to believe is one of those practical things that you can do. And then it says that he rewards those who seek him. So what do we need to do? Seek him. That's another practical thing we can do. Now, how do you seek him? Well, I would say getting into the Word, getting to know him. Now, this is my journal of the juice. It's not a Bible. But as I showed y'all, this is if it was a Bible. But, I've been writing verses in here and whatnot. But get into the Bible, right? Get into the Word. It's so available in so many ways. It's on the internet. It's an app. There's just so many ways at this point. I still say get a physical Bible, because you just never know. You just never know when it comes to this world. But still, while the easy options are still available to us, by all means take advantage of them, y'all. And seek him, right? So that's two things already that you can practically do, in my humble opinion, if you don't feel like faith is practical. But hey, let's keep going. So then Matthew 21:22, it says, "And whatever you ask in prayer, you will receive if you have faith." Okay, so that sounds like a third thing to do. A third practical step to make. Pray. So believe, seek him, and pray. Now, you can do that in whatever stage you're in. Whether you got funds or not. Whatever your issue is. These are three practical things already that you can do to exercise your faith. Because that's the thing. At the end of the day, the word does say, faith without works is dead. And to be honest, I know we've talked about this before, but if not, let me just reiterate that basically those that have faith, they do the work because of their faith. I wake up every morning, right, doing the juice and taking out the time because I have faith that God's going to provide. Now, hey, I didn't know when I kicked this thing off that, this will be one of the things that will help bring some funds into my family or whatnot. I think I just kicked this thing off as a challenge for myself to, hey, you know what, why don't you go ahead and read the Bible every day? Why don't you go ahead and study the Bible every day? You say in your mind all the time that you need to be better about this. You need to do it. X, Y, and Z. And since then, God has done so much. Look at all the things that have flourished, all the relationships that have been, introduced, and just all these different things that have stemmed from that one faith move of seeking God. Is faith practical? I don't know about you, but it's been for me. It has been for me, friends. But let's keep going. 2 Corinthians 5:7, it says, "For we walk by faith and not by sight." Again, that just reiterates what I just said there. I did not see none of this coming. I feel like I am becoming the miracle that I've always imagined myself to be. You know what I'm saying? I've become an author, I guess a talk show host, all these beautiful things, right? These are things that was in my mind that, I would love to achieve these goals, right? But I didn't know in 2020 when I just started this little podcast from home, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know that it was going to be the key thing to kick off all the rest of the things that have been on my heart and mind over the past, I don't know how many years. Walking by faith and not by sight. That's all I'm saying, y'all. That's all I'm saying. Let me keep going. Luke 1:37, it says, "For nothing will be impossible with God." Y'all know I told y'all about the troll that we had on Instagram that time when we was talking, everything is possible. What about this? What about that? It says, "For nothing will be impossible with God." So, I don't know. What does nothing mean to you? What does impossible mean to you? Because it says nothing will be impossible. So that means that everything is possible, in my humble opinion, if we just gonna go off of what it says here. But hey, let's keep going. Mark 9:23, it says, "And Jesus said to him, 'If you can, all things are possible for one who believes.'" Man, so that goes all the way back to what we said in the beginning. The first practical thing you can do is to believe. And it just, again, it's reiterated here that all things are possible for one who believes. Again, I don't know. I'm sharing my own little testimony here, but at the end of the day, you guys can see this in a whole lot of different things, right? You can see it in, people that you admire. You can see it in, if you admire business people, if you admire, people that are, ministers, I don't know who you admire, but a lot of times these people are exercising faith. These people took that step to get where they are, and so, and a lot of them, are believers. Now, there are some that are doing the opposite, right? And I think that's amazing, or that's an interesting thing to think about as well. That there are people that do not believe, right? And they seem to be, actually they're more successful, right, than those that believe. That's what it seems sometimes. And why is that? Obviously, because there's more things in play. We talked about unbelievers the other day, but even so, we know that there's evil operating, and obviously, there's evil in high places, and they might be making their deals with the devil, or whatever they're doing to get where they are. So, but it's very interesting, right, that people can fully believe in that, so much so where they get where they are, and they have all this success that everybody admires, right? But we struggle with believing in good. But people full on have lifestyles and operate in living in evil. I don't know. It just sounds like to me that we need to get our faith up. They got their faith and they believe. And you see where they are. But we have the God of the Bible, right? We have God. We have good. We have, and we know at the end of the day that we win in spite of what it looks like now, and so that's just one of those things that, when it comes to this whole idea, is faith practical? Well, let me just show y'all guys this right here. So that last verse I shared with you all, that inspired me to go deeper. So I ended up reading, so one of the first verses in the Go Deeper section is Mark 9:14 through 28. I can't remember exactly what verse it was. It might have been verse 28. But basically, that whole section is talking about when after Jesus had been transfigured on the mountain with the disciples that he took up there and whatnot, he came back down. And I guess there was some other disciples that the people had came to get some help or whatnot, and Jesus was like, basically he was like, what's going on, X, Y, and Z, and that the people were like, oh, your disciples couldn't, help us, X, Y, and Z. And so basically towards the end of the conversation, after Jesus, helps the child and all that happened, the disciples that I guess they couldn't do it, they were like, well, why couldn't we do it? And Jesus said to them that this kind of comes out by prayer and fasting. So they was casting a demon out and whatnot, and they was like, this comes out by prayer and fasting. These are the other practical things that you could do in regards to faith. Like, if you don't have, and that's the thing, like, one, I often say that we need to look at what we have, right? So if you feel like you're in a place where you have nothing, then I would say that you have God, because God is always there. So that's one thing, but you have to believe that. So that's one of the practical things. But if you're past that stage and you realize that you do have God, then hey, another practical move and things that you can do is to pray and to fast. And I also would add to that, this is just me and another practical thing that I do is I make lists. But that, for me, that kind of reminds me of the verse that says, write the vision and make it plain. I would say that I've done that, especially this year, when I felt like I didn't have to, whatever funds or whatever I needed at the time to do whatever it was I wanted to do. I started to make a list of what I wanted to do and whatnot. And so then next thing I know, when blessings came, I was able to look at my list and say, okay, boom, I can do this, I can do that. Okay, let me check this off, let me check that off. And I've seen so many checklists checked off at this point where it's like, these are things that you can practically do. Now, whether you feel like it's practical or not, that's, I guess, up to you. That's up to, your, where you are or whatever. But I mean, hopefully if you listen to the sound of my voice today, you've received several practical things that you all can do when it comes to living by faith. So, again, the question is faith practical? I say yes, depending on how you're doing it. So, that's the juice. The Bible verse of today is Luke 6:36. It says, be ye therefore merciful, as your Father also is merciful. Friends, I hope you all enjoyed this juice this morning. Thank you so much for listening to God, Sex, and Love, your daily dose of inspiration, the juice. I pray you guys can go forth and have a wonderful day, and I look forward to talking to you all tomorrow if the Lord's will. And again, stay tuned for God, Sex, and Love, the talk show tonight with Speaking Grace TV, coming on at 7 p.m. on our Facebook and on our YouTube channel. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye. Hello, charmers. Visit ttcboutique.com for the latest in fashion and accessories. Twice the charm, the source of women clothing.